Water is life. It sounds philosophical, but likely quite literal for our home planet, with the first signs going back billions of years. You've heard that DNA is the building block of today's life, but it really started with its simpler cousin, RNA, or ribonucleic acid. How do we go from a simple primordial soup to more complex organisms? 2 labs in Chicago and 1 in Houston may hold the answer.
Cells are compartments within compartments within compartments.
Dr. Matthew Tyrrell at the University of Chicago explains how certain fluid droplets called coacervates, made of charged molecules, could have provided compartments for life to form. However, it's been speculated that genetic information may have been exchanged too quickly, within minutes, with no real change.
If everything's just mixed together in a homogeneous solution, then evolution will never occur because there's no difference between some things and other things.
Enter Dr. Aman Agrawal, finding just how permeable these droplets could be by finding how RNA could diffuse in and out of them.
Proteins and DNA rely on each other quite a bit, so one cannot exist in the absence of the other. But RNA is a molecule that can do the function of both proteins as well as DNA.
Dr. Agrawal's team showed droplets placed in deionized water with no salts don't allow molecules in or out as easily. In theory, that can make them a prime candidate for acting as protocells, with a thin mesh of a membrane giving rise to more complex life. Here's a basic primer on coacervation. You start with 2 immiscible or unmixable liquids. Oil and water is your classic example. If you did physically mix them, you tend to end up with little individual oil droplets. Coacervation involves charged molecules of one part being attracted to and eventually forming a protective shell around the other. Today, the techniques used in everything from food science to pharmaceuticals, but having them kickstart life on Earth was a tall order. Dr. Tyrrell recalls a working lunch with several colleagues gathered at an Italian restaurant.
I think I said, where would deionized water have come from in a pre-biotic world? And I think it was Aman's thesis advisor, Alamgir Karim, who said rain.
Well, that's simple enough, and Dr. Jack Sostak, who conducted that earlier RNA research, told him the exact same thing. Raindrops are not pure water, needing particles like specks of dust to form around as a seed of sorts called a condensation nucleus. Knowing this, Dr. Agrawal and team slowly added salts back into their pure water in the lab, and even very acidic stuff like what would have existed on early Earth proved promising.
We found that a small amount of salt, which is much more than what rainwater has these days around, is enough for the droplets to survive. And then we went ahead and we collected rainwater outside our labs and actually tested out these droplets in that rainwater, and we found that the droplets are still perfectly fine.
There were 2 main compartmental competitors on early Earth, the coacervate droplets we've mentioned, but also lipid vesicles made of fatty compounds that can form a membrane. Current biology across all species has those vesicles, but some important cell parts like nucleoli don't have a membrane and are a closer comparison to those tiny droplets embedded within. It's a big step forward in looking 4 billion years backward, but Dr. Tyrrell says, like with all important ideas, it has to hold up to a lot more scrutiny.
We're not bound and determined to prove that this is the fundamental thing. We supplied one element of a puzzle. We're not trying to oversell this, but on the other hand, we do find it quite exciting.
The research is just beginning at this point, but I think there is a lot of potential in that direction.
For this week's Moment of Science, I'm Dan Smith.